I've been talking about this all day, actually, a couple of days, really. And when you are being taught how to be a disc jockey and how to be on the air and how to be an entertainer, especially if you're like a journalist and you're interviewing celebrities, which I've been lucky enough to do. You're not supposed to gush, and you're not supposed to make a big deal, and you're not supposed to be a big fan, right? You're not supposed to say you're a big fan. And the guy who's in my studio right now, I will say, I'm gonna let you know, it's because of you that I wanted to be a game show host. It's actually because of you and two other guys that I wanted to do the game show that we put on here. Ladies and gentlemen, John Davidson is in the studio with me.
Hi,
John,
everybody.
this is fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. I'm really gushing here, so thanks a lot.
Circle gets a square.
Exactly.
It's so weird that people think of me. My career is so screwed up.
Yeah.
I started on Broadway, and then I got into television in the late '60s. I'm an old guy now, and it went after variety television. And then when variety television I did Carol Burnett Show, Sonny and Cher, and Tony Orlando, and Glenn Campbell, Mac Davis, and all those shows guesting, and then variety shows sort of went to sleep. They went away.
Yeah.
And
they weren't as cool anymore, right? Is that why?
Yeah, I think what it was, a lot of people tried to do sketches like Carol Burnett.
Sure.
And it turns out not many people can do Tim Conway and Harvey Korman kind of sketches. So the closest thing to variety was game shows.
Yeah, okay.
And I had a producer say to me, John, we've got that television series for you that you've always wanted. Oh, great! I'm excited. What is it? Is it a $6 Million Man kind of show? A dramatic show? They said no. It's a game show. It's called Hollywood Squares, and I turned it down at first. Yeah. I can't believe I turned it down because they said, well, you won't be singing on this show because I started as a singer.
Right.
And they said, no, it's hosting the Hollywood Squares. Peter Marshall was the first host.
Sure. And
I was a second host, and then the third one was Tom Bergeron.
Sure.
But I did it for about 5 years in the late 90s. And but then I've played Vegas a lot, and I've done Broadway shows and made a lot of albums and stuff. So it's been a very confusing career.
It's funny too when I mentioned to some of the younger salespeople upstairs, they're like, "Who is that?"
Right.
And I was like, "Well, wait a minute. This is John Davidson. This is a man who sat in for Johnny Carson for over 80 times. I mean, you look in the era that you were mostly on, John. It's like you were, like you said, Carol Burnett. You did all these shows, and you were very recognizable, and you still are. Your voice is just as good. I'm telling you, as it is today.
Yeah, I'm singing pretty good. But that's the way careers go, But what I've always liked about my Vegas show and doing variety shows is singing with my guitar. I love even accompanying myself. I had a segment in my Vegas. I played the Elvis showroom at the Hilton in Vegas, and I had a little segment on a stool where I played guitar, and that's my favorite thing to do. And so now I have a barn in Sandwich, New Hampshire, which is in the Lakes region of New Hampshire. Right. Everybody knows. It's above, right near Meredith, Sandwich, New Hampshire. And it's a music venue, so I call it Club Sandwich, which I thought was sort of clever. It's also very obvious.
Right.
So people say, well, what is it, a deli? I said, no, it's not a deli. That's where I sing every Friday and Saturday. I open this Friday.
This Friday.
I don't know when this will actually.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah.
And
Friday.
I play every Friday and Saturday through October, and I have a bass player I play with, and I do the best show I've ever done. I'm really excited.
I want to talk more about Club Sandwich in a bit. John Davidson's with me this morning, and you can stick around for a little while, right, John?
Oh, yeah.
All right, thanks. He's going to stick around, and we're going to talk about Club Sandwich because I got to tell you, when you even bring it up, John's face lights up. You can tell it's his passion. We'll be talking about that coming up in a bit. All right, special in-studio guest, John Davidson, a guy who really did inspire me to want to become a game show host. It was you, Bob Barker, and Dick Clark. And
Not Wink Martindale.
no, almost Wink Martin, but the Hollywood Squares in particular, for me, I mean, so you were hosting, but also your center square was a guy I knew from Top 40, Shadow Stevens.
Shadow Stevens, yeah.
And the
but
voice.
actually, he was the announcer. Yeah, sometimes he was the center square. Yeah. But most of the time, my center square was Joan Rivers, who was very funny, very clever, very smart.
Yeah.
She kind of played dumb in order to be a comedian, but very sharp lady. And then, of course, Tom Bergeron brought it back, and Whoopi Goldberg was the center square.
That's right.
But when I first guested on squares with Peter Marshall, the center square was Paul Lynde.
And those are hard shoes to fill.
Everybody remembers Paul Lynde.
Yeah.
And during that time, I had a manager that talked me into doing a centerfold for Cosmopolitan magazine. It was a stupidest thing I've ever done. I've never been like a sexy guy, like a
Even
Burt
with the
Reynolds
dimples?
no. I've been wholesome and clean and all that. More like a Glenn Campbell's my career.
Sure.
So I did this centerfold. I was wearing a towel. It wasn't naked. It was a large towel, but I did this picture, and they made me Mr. February, which is the shortest month. But there's no need to bring up that. I brought this picture back, the centerfold, and I showed it to Paul Lynde on Hollywood Squares.
Oh, geez.
And he said, well, you should have been the ambassador to underdeveloped countries.
Nice. That's what made him perfect for Hollywood Squares. Yeah. You know, we could talk about your TV career, your movie career, just your Broadway career in particular, but it's music that has always been your... There's a glow about you when you talk about music, John. There really, truly is, especially when you talk about Club Sandwich, too, because first of all, I was joking, it's almost like you don't know how to retire. You don't know the definition of retire. You're 81 now.
I don't know what I would. I'm 81. I love what I do. My opening number. I brought my guitar to the studio.
I saw that.
Well, I bet you're probably wondering what I'm gonna do tonight. I told you how confusing my career is. Is he a game show host? Is he a Broadway guy? Is he an actor? Is he a variety show? Well, a fella has to holler when he's feeling all right. I finally busted out. I was trapped in your TV. Now I'm here to tell you what you're doing to me. You drive me crazy. And I'm about to go insane. Yeah, the fact that you showed up and I don't even know your name. I know you don't expect to hear a medley of my hits. I never had one. You just came to see me. As good it gets. You see, I've been around the world a bit and I thought I'd seen it all. From Broadway out to Vegas and every concert hall. I've seen a lot of things. They used to fill my bucket list. I just never figured I'd be feeling like this. You drive me crazy. So anyway, that's the opening number, and it kind of says it all. I've done so many things, but I'd rather be right here singing. What I'm singing in now in Club Sandwich, in the Lakes region of New Hampshire in Sandwich, is a 45-seat barn. And the seats are all couches and sofas and
relaxing,
so people can sleep better during my show.
Yeah, oh, come on.
But it's a very intimate space. I love it that way. And I have a rear screen projection behind me. So I can stand in front of that screen and I can be singing on the beach in Portsmouth, or I can be walking through the woods in New Hampshire or whatever.
Right on top of Mount Monadnock if you wanted to.
Yeah. My opening number is this. Is my guitar too? I guess so. In the hills of New Hampshire on a crystal autumn day. Well, if you're looking for adventure, it's sure to come your way. Meet me north of Henniker. I think you know the spot I mean. You see, halfway to Canada and every mountain in between. New Hampshire is calling, as she always calls to me. In my mind, I'm on the trail of Mount Manhattan, or I'm walking by the sea. I'm walking to the top of Mount Manhattan. I left out something. Biking to Ossipee. On the back roads of New Hampshire is where I long to be. I'm going home, back to New Hampshire, where the gray-blue heron soars across the sky. If you've ever seen it, you know why we mean it. When we raise our battle cry, live free. Live free. It's on all the license plates. Live free in New Hampshire. Live free or die. That's my opening number.
Hey everybody, John Davidson in the studio with us. He's going to hang around for a little while longer. We're talking about Club Sandwich, and we're going to talk about how you can see him coming up in a few minutes. All right, in studio, he's tuning up his guitar again, John Davidson. And you know, it's so funny because when I mentioned you were coming on the show, somebody was like, well, with what? A guitar? I'm like, yeah, absolutely guitar. He's like, the game show host is coming with a guitar. And I said, well, you started with music. And do you, as great as your career has been, did you always long to go back? I mean, here you are hosting Hollywood Squares. That's incredible. The list goes on, you know, filling in for Johnny and not having those opportunities to take your guitar out. So very much like Steve Martin. Like Steve Martin now is touring with his banjo, and he started with his banjo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I have a banjitar that I play in the show. A banjitar is a cross between a banjo and a guitar. It's a 6-string banjo where I do a lot of. That's how I would play the banjo, but this is still my guitar. People say, "Why are you singing?" I say, well, something happened in 2008. Made me realize I should keep singing. I wrote a song about it, Wall Street. I was getting close to my retirement day. I had my company stock and my 401k. South of France, yep, that's where I was bound. Thought I'd drive my new Mercedes from town to town and cruise up the Nile, vacation in Rome, go shopping in New Hampshire for my second home. But the stock market tanked. I think it's quite clear I'll be driving this Yugo for at least another year. I got the blues. I got the Wall Street blues. So that's a sort of a Steve Martin kind of
Sure,
thing. Yeah.
sure. People don't realize New Hampshire or New England has been your home for a while, right? Because Massachusetts, you spent time.
Yeah, grew up in West Bridgewater, Mass, outside of Brockton.
Right.
And always looked north to New Hampshire. We used to vacation New Hampshire and Maine. And I love the trees. And when let me see, 6 years ago, I, having grown up in Massachusetts, you might call me a masshole. And so here I am, moved to New Hampshire, and found an old farmhouse in Sandwich. Yeah. Because 6 years ago, real estate was so cheap.
Right, yeah.
Up here. And then it went crazy.
Right.
But on 23 acres, and I moved to New Hampshire. And when I left West Bridgewater in the 8th grade, I moved to White Plains, New York for a while. And I raised my hand in 8th grade and I said, "What's my mark?" I said to the teacher, "What's my grade? What's my mark?"
Mike's mark, yeah.
And the girl next to me laughed, and in a day I said, "Mark. I got a hard R." I had a hoss in my barn, of course. But I changed all that to fit in New York. You know.
Sure. And so take us again, with music being your passion, you grew up around it. I know you had ministers for parents, correct?
Yeah, both of my parents were ministers. I'm not religious at all.
Right,
I'm very secular.
Yep.
But my parents were ministers. I had 3 brothers. We were the preacher's sons, the 4 of us. And after the service, people would say, "Aren't you the preacher's son?" I said, "Yeah, I'm the preacher's son." Ladies say, "Well, there you are. You're all cleaned up and standing next to the preacher. Are you the preacher's son?" I said, "Yeah, I'm the preacher's son." I said, "Mom, I have no name. I have no identity. I'm just the preacher's son." She said, "John Hamilton Davidson, you have a name. You're not the preacher's son. You're John Hamilton." next Sunday, a nice grandma walked up and said, "Well, aren't you the preacher's son?" I said, "No, Mommy says I'm not."
Oh, there we go. John Hamilton Davidson is with us. He'll be back in a bit. And Club Sandwich is fantastic. I want to talk more about how that got built as well and how you can see John performing in New Hampshire. All right, in the studio with John Davidson in studio.
I got to tell you,
Thanks so
Parker,
much.
how many stations are you on? You're all over New
8.
England.
There's 8.
Goodness.
Yeah, well, technology is a wonderful thing, John. It's just a wonderful thing. Well, and I'm so, like I said when I started the show, I really, truly am, but bottom of my heart, very happy that you're here because, you know, watching you and watching you on Hollywood Squares and you always, everything you've done, whether it was Carol Burnett or That's Incredible or Hollywood Squares or Pyramid, let's not forget that.
Oh, I forgot about Pyramid. Yeah. I took over for Dick Clark when I did the new Pyramid. Then I think Donny Osmond followed me.
Right.
Yeah, that's a fun show.
You have always had this charisma, this fun. You seem like a laid back kind of guy, a guy that just takes it as it comes and really enjoys himself. But when I see you talk about Club Sandwich, everything you know about John Davidson you see on TV, it's 10 times more when he talks about his Club Sandwich and his music.
It's a dream of mine to have my own place, my own little club. Again, it's just 45 seats. I have a lot of special effects in it. I have a swing that comes down out of the ceiling.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
Sing a song.
Here we go, ladies.
Sitting on a swing. It's just a
kind of
crazy idea.
Okay.
I'm a swinger.
Yeah.
And again, I have the rear projection screens. And I was sold out for 2 years. All of my shows last season were sold out. And my first weekend, June 2nd and 3rd, are sold out as well. But after that, there are seats available. I also present guest artists on Thursday nights. I've talked a lot of my friends into coming in and singing, and a lot of people. Just one second, I'll get my.
Sure.
I have a card here that lists all my guests at Club Sandwich for the season. Again, it's every Thursday night. But Vance Gilbert comes in June 6th. Ellis Paul comes in June 22nd. Peter Mulvey, a mentalist, John Stetson, comes in July. 2 guys that do an Everly Brothers show.
Yeah, I saw that.
Their names aren't even here, but they're Sean and Jack. They do a perfect impression of the Everly Brothers. Wake up, little Susie, wake up. And fabulous show. They're sold out. Ellis Paul is sold out. And a lot of my shows are sold out as well. Franz Nicolai's coming, a crazy guy. He's a member of Hold Steady, but he's coming in with his guitar and stuff. Jim Queskin is coming in August. Patty Larkin is coming in August 11th. She's sold out as well. Doing a Ukrainian benefit. Andriana Knapp is of Ukrainian heritage, so we're trying to raise money for the war in Ukraine. A very funny lady, Karen Morgan, is doing a family comedy. It's very funny. An a cappella group called Ball in the House. It's a group that goes bow, 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 bow.
Right.
They do
Bowser and Sha-na-na sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of doo-woppy. Yeah. And then they also do just it's all a cappella. So one guy that makes a drum. Aztec Two-Step is a great country rock. Anyway,
so it's pretty much everything here. You've got mentalists, you've got comedians, you've got it's a potpourri of stuff at the.
I tried a magician, but our ceiling is too low, and his balls kept hitting the ceiling while he was juggling. So.
It's when you have that,
you can
sort
play
of
with that.
Yes. Yeah, I do. I single guy for a while. So the other thing that you have done, which I didn't realize this until I did a little bit of extra research, is something I've been saying for years, and I was like, John's doing this. It's crazy. I love the idea that are you still living on your boat?
Yes. Yeah.
Again,
I love it. Well, I live in Sandwich. I live in Sandwich, right. Near Club Sandwich. But in the winter, my son lives in La Paz, Mexico, down in Baja, on the Sea of Cortez. So I bought a diesel trawler. I've been a boater for for years. My last boat, I navigated through the Panama Canal. This was, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But my new boat is 42-foot diesel trawler, and it's a liveaboard. So I live in the marina.
It's fantastic.
About a mile from my son. I cruise the Sea of Cortez from November through May, and then I come back and do Club Sandwich June through October.
John Davidson is with us. We have to take a quick break. We'll be right back with a little more. You can stick around a little longer.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. We'll be right back. More about Club Sandwich with John Davidson here on the show this morning. Seriously, I was like, I've been thinking about that. I was like, man, I would love to just get a boat and live on a, I go to YouTube and stuff, and so many people have done that where they'll, they'll so that's. All right, back with John Davidson this morning. We're talking about Club Sandwich. The opening show is coming up this weekend, right? June 2nd is when you start.
June 2nd, yeah. I hope I know all my stuff. I've got a lot of new songs. I wrote a song about the fact that I have more questions than answers. I thought when I get to be older that I would have all the answers. I have more questions than answers. Down through the ages, wise men and sages, searching for knowledge they plundered. Well, I've roamed and I've combed through the great ancient tomes. Still late at night, I wonder, why do men have nipples? How come Tarzan never had a beard? True. Why do bars have parking lots if I can't drink and drive? Am I the only one who finds this weird? Why did Adam and Eve need navels? If your doctor's practicing, is he practicing on you? Why wash my bath towels? I'm clean when I use them. What are training bras training them to do? So it goes along like that. It's
fantastic.
Just a crazy show.
So I've also noticed it's a small venue, Club Sandwich, small venue, 40 seats. So it sells out really quickly, but you've got a solution for that. It looks like you're streaming these shows too.
We live stream every show.
Awesome.
The guest artists on Thursday night as well. All those names that I read earlier. Yep, they're all live streamed. And it's a 2-camera live stream, so it's quite a little show.
Yeah. Fantastic.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, and of course, I think it's like $10 or something like that get you into it, right? That's a fantastic idea because do you have any ideas or do you want to expand Club Sandwich or make it bigger? Or are you just happy just kind of do it? Because you seem like, hey, it's just a fun little thing for you to do and keeps you going.
I love doing it. I love presenting guest artists. I love doing my show. And no, I don't. I've had articles done about me, like the Washington Post did a big spread about me and talked about, what's he doing singing in Sandwich, New Hampshire? I love New Hampshire. I love singing in my own place. Yeah. I like not having to travel. People come to me and I keep the show different all the time. I'm changing it all the time. I don't serve any food at all, even though it's called Club Sandwich. We give away popcorn. Hope that they'll eat enough popcorn and then they'll buy the water. We sell them water after they've had a lot of popcorn. I like what it is. If there are people listening who are above 60, I don't know where you probably have all
we got
all ages of people listening. But if there are people who have been laid off at 60, or if they've decided to change careers, you got to find out. When I hit 60, I thought, what do I really want to do? Okay. I mean, Hollywood Squares had gone off the air. That's Incredible had gone off the air. They weren't calling so much from Hollywood, and I thought, what do I really love doing? So I have some money. I can go to see my kids a lot. I can travel to Europe and stuff. But what do I really like to do? And what I like to do is to sing. I like the vibration in my face when I sing. Isn't that weird? I work a lot on breathing to use the air well. I I think that's why my voice feels so healthy now, because I'm breathing well from when I was on Broadway days.
Sure.
And I like working on my guitar, trying to play better and I'm always learning. In my mind, I haven't yet done my best show.
Interesting.
I just love working on my show.
You know, your voice sounds exactly like it did.
No.
It really, John, it does. It
Parker,
does.
you've forgotten what my voice was like, because you were in diapers when
But it was still, close your eyes. It's like, okay, there's John Davidson, you know, and
circle gets a square. No.
Right. It's that, but you know, it's amazing that you're following your passions. I think that is so important. When you were, you know, hosting the Tonight Show or your own show, that John Davidson show, which, by the way, I don't know if you've heard this in a long time. I did find something here. Hold on. It's a little bit of nostalgia for you, John.
Where do you find these?
Well, you know, the internet's a wonderful thing. A little bit of nostalgia for you, John. I don't know if you remember this right here. If I can play it. Hold on. That's the John Davidson show theme song.
The John Davidson Show. Hey.
You know, and I got to tell you, I'm a Beatle fan as well, and Ringo was on that show.
Oh.
And I'm like, you handled it well, but I've never seen you, and I'm sure you get upset. You're a human being. Everybody gets upset, but you have this persona where you never get upset, right? But you looked like you were not happy.
This was the first year of the show, and I took over from Mike Douglas with my daytime show. I ran for 2 years, but in the first year, here came Ringo Starr with his wife, I think at the time, Barbara Bach, and some athlete. They were plugging the movie Caveman.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that movie.
Yeah. And Ringo was stoned or drunk. He was just out. He said, I'm a butterfly. I'm a butterfly.
Yeah. He was messing with your cards and the whole thing.
Yeah. And he had a little Polaroid camera. He wanted to take everybody's picture. And I just couldn't deal. I should have been able to deal with it. But I said, wait a minute. And I called my director over and I say, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't. He's stoned and it's, you know. So, it did not go well with Ringo. I'm sure he's a great guy, but it just happened that he came to the studio stoned or drunk. I don't know.
So being a big music fan, was the Beatles an influence of you? So, you know,
oh, sure.
You know, so you're thinking, oh, I'm going to see a Beatle. This is going to be cool. Like, he's on my show. And then that kind of performance happened. Again, Ringo's probably a great guy and all that. Just the time period was what it was.
Yeah.
It didn't leave a bad taste in your mouth, but was there anybody else afterwards you thought to yourself, you know, I really would love to interview this person, have them on my show, but...
No, that was very rare. Mm-hmm. The bigger stars usually show up to play the game of doing an interview or a talk show, and they're so open and so giving, and they give the host what the host is asking for, you know, whatever, and have fun. So I found most of the people are like Tom Hanks, or, you know, are just open. Betty White, you know, oh my goodness, those sort of open people are. That's what most people are like. You know, I'm in a great business of great people.
Fantastic. John Davidson with us for just a little bit longer here. We'll return with more from John Davidson. Don't forget, his Club Sandwich show is starting this weekend. You can check out the website, clubsandwichlive.com, for all the shows that are there.
Yeah, all the tickets are done online. So,
yeah.
clubsandwichlive.com.
And in case it's sold out, of course, that live stream as well. More with John Davidson coming up. All right, so back in the studio with John Davidson.
You're doing Shadow Stevens when you go into that voice.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah, you're a man of many voices.
I try. We're talking about Club Sandwich, and I'm glad you brought up that Washington Post article, because I looked into it, and at first I was like, where did they get off saying sailing the high seas with John Davidson, the superstar, time forgot? And I was like, I was mad for you.
No, I like that. No. It's true. I had my peak years in my career in the 70s, 80s, and sort of in the 90s. But I haven't been on TV in a long time. So
you don't seem like you miss it.
Oh, I do. I miss. I never did go to Hollywood parties.
Yeah.
When I was invited, sometimes I felt intimidated by big stars. I just would. Even when I lived in L.A., I was raising horses and I was in the country, and here's some advice to anybody starting a career. One thing I didn't do enough was to hang out with winners.
Okay.
I think it's important in any business to look for the people who are going. So it doesn't mean that you're an opportunist or that you're trying to be something that you're not or whatever. But I was intimidated by successful people. And so I would refuse a dinner invitation, or I would refuse going to something because I felt, oh, that's not in my league. You should step out of your league in your career. You should hang out with winners, because winners need friends.
Right.
They need people to be with them. Sometimes it can be lonely at the top, you know. And so if I did something different, if I would advise other people in a career or in business, working for IBM, whatever, hang out with the people who are going somewhere, just because they're more interesting, they have more passion. If someone has a lot of time, who's always available to you, that makes them easier to be a friend.
Sure.
But it means that they don't have anything going. And it's not a bad thing to encourage them to go for it. So I would say to people, hang out with people that have a passion and a curiosity about life.
Sure. Would you say, oftentimes people are surprised when an entertainer will say, I was shy when I was younger, or this, or I would never go in front of people, or would that describe you?
Yes, a lot
doesn't
of
seem
entertainers.
like that.
Yeah. I was so shy. People make fun of my dimples. I always point at my dimples, and I just didn't want to hear that. And that's the beauty of theater. High school theater programs. I was a theater arts major in college. The idea of role playing in any business, like Parker, with me now, you're playing a role, right. The role of a moderator, of a radio host in this case, although you've also done TV. Everybody in their business, they play a role. So I found a way to create a character. It isn't phony. I'm just using parts of myself that work, called John Davidson. Mm-hmm. And in my first year of my career, I actually made a list of the qualities that I want that work for me. Positive songs.
Sure.
If I tried to sing "Who Can I Turn To When Nobody Needs Me,"
right,
people say, "Come on,"
right?
Because I look like the guy who gets the girl. I don't look like a guy who's crying in his beer at the bar.
Exactly.
So that character of positive, passionate, energetic, sort of.
Sure.
It's not how I am all the time.
Right.
You saw how I was when I first walked in here this morning. I'm fairly low key, but when we're doing a show, that's the character that I use as John Davidson, and it's okay to do that.
Sure.
Even if you're in business.
Yeah.
If you're a dentist, the dentist has a demeanor, has a role that he plays when he's drilling,
right?
that he doesn't do at home with his wife or with his kids.
I had a doctor who a hand surgeon. I had trigger thumb in my hand once, and they met this hand surgeon to take care of this. Right? He was a fan of my show. He knew who I was, and he was as stereotypical doctor as you could imagine. He had the look, everything else. When he found out who he thought I was from the character you talked about, he's like, "Parker, come back here. You got to check this out." And I go to his office, and he's a super heavy metal fan. And I'm not talking Metallica heavy metal. I'm talking about, the yelling, the roar, 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 that kind of stuff that I don't even dig. But, here's this buttoned up doctor. So you never really know what people, you only show people what exactly you want them to see. And if the character is built around who you are anyway, it's genuine.
Yeah. And theater teach kids who are shy in high school or college that you think of it as a role. Decide who you're going to be at a party before you get there, and be that. You can. It's pretending a little bit, but it's just using those parts of yourself that maybe you wouldn't think of using. I've worked some with Don Rickles. Remember Don Rickles?
Oh yes.
Who's very a dynamic performer.
Funny.
He rips the place up.
Wouldn't be able to get away with it today.
But no, probably not. But his best friend was Bob Newhart, who was the quiet Mr. Milquetoast.
Yeah.
And I thought, isn't that a strange friendship? No, it isn't.
No.
Because that's what Don Rickles is like off stage. He's like Bob Newhart.
No kidding.
And he's found this persona that works. Many people do that, and it's a good thing. Role playing is what theater teaches us. So we need more theater in our lives. It's good for you.
As great as everything seemed to have been for your career, you know, you've been on all the classic shows that people remember. Was there ever a moment that you really had to say, whoa, all right, I'm really distraught over this, or I'm really disappointed I didn't get this gig, or there was a piece of rejection that really was devastating for you? Was there ever that moment, and how did you deal with it? Did you just like move on, or?
Oh man, there've been a lot of those. Originally, I couldn't get on Ed Sullivan because I didn't have a hit record. My agent just kept trying, and I did it 3 times finally, but I couldn't, because I never had a hit. I didn't spend enough time in the studio.
Right.
Like you spent hours here in this bomb shelter studio, which is beautiful.
Truthfully.
But I always wanted to be out on stage.
Yeah.
The Carson Show. I couldn't get on Johnny Carson originally because isn't that funny? And I wound up hosting it years later.
Right.
But they felt that I wasn't they felt I was a singer. Yeah, he's a good singer. But when you go over to the couch, you have to be able to do stories and to talk.
Sure.
And I wasn't good at that. So I started working on it. I collected little jokes and things I could do with Johnny. And I realized if you throw it back on Johnny,
Sure.
He had 8 wives. So when you refer to your wife, you can say, and you were married too, Johnny, weren't you? Yeah. And then I discovered to try to touch Johnny Carson. He's talk about a shy guy. He was very shy.
Read his
I bet even Ed McMahon didn't really know Johnny Carson. Yeah. And that's okay. They worked well together. But I tried to touch Johnny's clothes, and once I tried to touch his hair, talking about hair, and he looked straight out at the audience, was very uncomfortable, got a big laugh, because everybody knows that he's you don't touch Johnny Carson.
Right,
you know?
right.
So I found ways of guesting on The Tonight Show, but I had to work at it. Originally, I couldn't get on.
So interestingly, that you say all that and you ended up being a host because do you think that quality made you a better host because you couldn't talk too much? You wouldn't be taking over that conversation because, sometimes hosts will do that.
I began to realize the old Merv Griffin idea, your job as a host is to make the stars shine.
Right.
They used to say, Merv makes the stars shine. I said, oh my goodness. And when I hosted Hollywood Squares, I was doing a Peter Marshall impression, but nobody knew it because I'm not an impression. But my job was to set up those stars to be funny and to score. And I like that. It's sort of like Abbott and Costello. Which one was the straight guy now?
The Abbott, right?
That's right.
No, yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
Bud Abbott. Bud Abbott and
Lou Costello.
So the straight guy is very important to set people up for that. And
Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis.
That's right. But then, so who would you say was the straight guy?
That would be Dean. Well,
but he started doing a lot of jokes.
That's right. Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, I guess he was the straight. He wasn't
silly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was silly. Yeah. Yeah, interesting study.
Very, very cool. John Davidson, one more. We've got one more break after this. I want to hear a little bit more, and then
I have nothing else to do.
I know.
I sing in a barn.
He sings in a barn. We got one more song, hopefully, from John, and then we'll talk about some Club Sandwich one last time and how you can get in. I know this weekend sold out, right?
Yeah.
Most of the shows are sold out, but we've got ways. Don't you worry. We'll come back with John Davidson.
I've got a joke about you people calling me John Denver. I'm glad you brought that up.
All right. Well, that's coming up in a bit. All right, back with John Davidson, our last break with John. Thanks again for coming. And like I said 100 times, and it's so true. You, Dick Clark, and Bob Barker, I remember I'd watch you guys. And first of all, let me just, not because you're sitting right here, but you had the coolest of the shows, I thought, because it wasn't just about, prices and that sort of thing. You had the stars with you. Going back to what you were saying about letting the star, kind of throwing stuff to a star, letting them deal with it. That I think that's one of the things that made you so charismatic on Hollywood's
I like charismatic.
See,
That's
I'm
good.
just
Yes.
like charismatic. That's the Latin version of it. Charismatic on Hollywood Squares, I think, because you let them play with the jokes. You knew what it was like to be on that other side.
Yeah, Parker, before we took the last break, you mentioned John Denver.
I did.
And it was so funny because I get that a lot in my career. Now, we're nothing alike.
Right.
John Denver wore glasses, and he's just a very different look. But J.D., I've never gotten Jimmy Dean, the country singer Jimmy Dean, Big Bad John.
The sausage guy.
What?
The sausage guy.
Well, yeah, sausage guy, yeah. He probably doesn't like that, but he
Probably
became
not.
the sausage guy. But a lady walks up, when I first got to New Hampshire, a lady walks up to me in Hannaford. We have Hannaford's?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have one.
In the frozen foods thing, I'm walking down the aisle. I hadn't been in New Hampshire but a month. She said, "Hold it. Stop right there." I said, "What?" She said, "You're somebody, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, everybody's somebody." She said, No. You are somebody. You're a singer, right? And records, and you've done movies and television specials, and you have a lot of albums. You're right." And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, yes, I have done a lot of that." She said, "You're John Denver, aren't you?" And I said, "No, John Denver died." She said, "Oh, that's right. Oh, silly me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He ran into a tree while he was skiing at Lake Tahoe." And I said, "No, that was Sonny Bono." And anyway, that's my John Denver story. So I've enjoyed that people often confuse me with John Denver.
Well, I mean, I guess it could be worse.
Of course. Oh my goodness.
Far worse. In Club Sandwich, the shows. Just looking at this list, John. I mean,
Those are my guests on Thursday
crazy.
nights. But
That's
yeah.
just on Thursday.
But I'm doing 20 weekends, so it's let me see. I'm doing about 45 shows in 4 or 5 months, and I look forward to it. I think I meet a lot of great people, and a lot of people come up to me and say, at my wedding 30 years ago, we played your record, a song called "You and I," that became a wedding song on an album. But and I get people show me how I've been a part of their lives. I mean that sincerely. I get a thrill out of having been a part of their lives. They named their kid John because of me, or they cut their hair as I had my hair then, or their son's hair. What? So just to have that effect on people, that's a thrill.
And you seem surprised by it. You seem like a very humble person. Actually,
No, I'm not. No,
not at all.
I have a huge ego. Oh, of course I do, but I think I'm realistic about the fact that I'm not on TV anymore like I used to be. So I'm in the I don't know, what do you call it? I'm in the latter years of my career, and I still love doing it, and people seem to like me doing it. So, but I'm realistic about the fact that I've never become huge. I've never been a Tom Jones or a Barry Manilow or who are some of the huge people who've had hits and all that. I played Vegas, the major showrooms and all that, and I've been on television. But it's been a very confusing career. So I'm very realistic about where my career is, and I'm glad that people accept me as I am.
If there was ever one artist that you've either worked with in the past or haven't worked with, we're excluding Ringo, is there an artist that you would love to do a duet with or sing with? Is there somebody you've always said, the two of us would sound pretty darn good together?
Well, when I guested on Tom Jones' show, we did a folk medley. Tom Jones is just a great guy. Yeah. Just a great guy. He's a man's man. He's a ladies' man. He's just cool. And I did a duet with him. I've done duets more with women. I did a duet with Mama Cass that's on the internet now.
Yeah, saw that.
I know I stand in line until you think you have the time to spend. Something stupid. I did a duet with Karen Carpenter. I dated Karen Carpenter just a little bit in between my marriages. I've been married twice. And in between, she very interesting, another very shy person. Of course, she's gone now.
Fantastic
yeah,
voice.
the way she sang, the way she used her voice was
Mama
just...
Cass, too.
Mama Cass, yeah. Did a duet with My Fair Lady, the Sound of Music lady. Well, who did Sound of Music? You know, the hills are alive with the sound.
Andrews.
Julie
Right?
Andrews,
Julie
yeah.
Andrews, yeah.
I guested on her show, and we did a duet I was really proud of. So most of my duets I did a duet with Lulu. Remember Lulu?
Yes.
I'm a fool for you, baby.
To Sir With Love, too, right? If I recall.
Maybe.
Lulu, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. So I tend to get paired up with women. Leslie Uggams I did a duet with once I loved. I don't know. I work with so many people. I've been very fortunate.
Everybody, John Davidson. Again, Club Sandwich. You can check out the website, clubsandwichlive.com, and a lot of the shows are sold out, but that doesn't mean you still can't try to get the tickets. You never know, and they do stream live as well. John, one more thing, too. I wanted to show you. I work with this magazine called Remind Magazine. Very, very cool. I'll let you have a copy. It's kind of neat. But they did this puzzler edition, and I had to look, and I turned to this page, and I said, well, looky here. Look what we got right there.
There's my picture.
There he is, right there in that magazine.
Oh, I was so cute.
Yeah, look
so
at those.
Cute. Yeah. That's Remind. What a great thing.
It's very cool. So it's a modern magazine that's written like the old days too, and they talk about stuff from that.
Is it
era,
a supermarket thing? Do you find it in the supermarket?
No, it's
you subscribe to
nationally.
it?
Yeah, I subscribe to it, but it's nationally. But it's very, very cool, and I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Thanks for showing me.
Everybody, thanks a lot, John Davidson on the show. I really
Parker.
appreciate it.
See you next time.